I received a random text that made my blood run cold. I found myself in the eye of a storm of lies and betrayal. How could I ever recover from it? The truth in her eyes. Sebastian Reynolds had always prided himself on being a good father. At 51, he had built a comfortable life, a loving wife, a beautiful home, and a bright, spirited daughter, Emily, who was the center of his world. But one quiet Sunday afternoon, as he was having a snack, an anonymous text message shattered his world. Random number. Would a child of yours have bright green eyes? It had to be talking about Emily's eyes. They were a striking shade of green, unlike his dark brown or his wife Claire's hazel. He had noticed it before, of course, but always brushed it off as a quirky genetic throwback. But after that text, it gnawed at him. That night, unable to sleep, he dug deeper. Though he never looked through them, Sebastian knew that Claire had always kept journals. Her determination to catalog her days was a habit of hers from before they'd even met. He found the box of Claire's old journals tucked away in their closet. He had never been one to invade her privacy, but the unease in his chest was too strong to ignore. Between the pages, he found entries from 15 years ago, vague at first, then painfully explicit. I can't believe I let this happen. He's so young, but when I'm with him, I feel alive in a way I haven't in years. Sebastian's hands trembled. He kept reading. Sebastian is a good man, but he'll never understand me like Jake does. And now, what if I'm pregnant? What if it's his? The name Jake hit him like a punch. He remembered him. Claire's former intern, fresh out of college, 22 to her 38 at the time. He had been around a lot back then, always laughing with Claire, always lingering just a little too long. Sebastian had never suspected a thing. Sebastian's world spun. He ordered a paternity test kit, and surreptitiously ran the swab on Emily's toothbrush right after she finished getting ready for school the next morning. 2 weeks later, the results confirmed his worst fear. Probability of paternity 0%. Emily was not his daughter. The betrayal cut deeper than he could have imagined. 14 years of love, of bedtime stories and school plays, of scraped knees and proud fatherly moments, all built on a lie. But then, Emily walked into the room, her green eyes wide with confusion. Dad? Why do you look so sad? Sebastian stared at her, the girl he had raised, the girl who called him Dad, with unwavering trust. And in that moment he realized something. Biology didn't make a father. Love did. With a shaky breath, he pulled her into a hug. It's nothing, sweetheart. Just life stuff. But as he held her, he knew the real battle was just beginning, the fight to forgive, to rebuild, and to decide whether the lie that had shaped his life would also destroy it. Part 2, The Reckoning. Sebastian sat in the living room, the paternity test results burning a hole in his shirt pocket. The sterile, printed words, 0% probability of paternity, had seared into his mind. He had spent the last 2 weeks in a daze, alternating between numbness and white-hot rage. But now, with the truth in his hands, he needed a plan. Step 1. Secure the evidence. Before confronting Claire, he made copies of everything, the test results, the journal entries, even old emails and photos he had dug up from their shared cloud storage. He scanned them onto a flash drive and hid the originals in a safety deposit box. If this turned ugly, he wouldn't let her twist the truth. Step 2. Lawyer up. Sebastian met with a divorce attorney, laying out the facts coldly. I need to know my rights, especially concerning Emily. The lawyer advised him to stay calm, avoid moving out, it could hurt his custody claim, and document every interaction with Claire from here on out. Step 3. Prepare for the fallout. He needed to know if Emily suspected anything. Did she ever question why she didn't look like him? Had Claire ever slipped up? He considered talking to her first but decided against it. She was just a kid. This was between him and Claire. Step 4. Choose the moment. He waited until Emily was at a weekend sleepover. No witnesses, no interruptions. He needed Claire's full attention. Part 3. The Confrontation. That night, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey, one for himself, one for her. He placed the test results on the coffee table between them. Claire froze when she saw the papers. Her face strained of color. At first, she denied it, her face pale with panic. But when he threw Jake's name at her, her resolve crumbled. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed. The affair had lasted nearly a year. "You've been reading my journal," she whispered. "Did you ever plan to tell me?" His voice was eerily calm. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Tears welled up. I convinced myself it didn't matter. You loved her. You loved us. Love built on a lie isn't love. It's manipulation." He took a slow sip of whiskey, letting the silence stretch. "Who else knows? Your sister? Your friends?" She shook her head. "No one. Jake didn't even know. I ended things before I knew I was pregnant." Sebastian exhaled sharply. "So for 14 years, you let me believe she was mine. You let me love her like she was mine." Claire crumpled. "I was terrified of losing you both. And now?" His voice cracked. "What happens now?" She had no answer. Sebastian stood, leaving the test results on the table. "I need time. Don't lie to Emily. Don't spin this. And for God's sake, don't pretend you're the victim here." As he walked out, he realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about whether a lie could unravel 14 years of being a father, or if love could somehow outlast the truth. Part 4: Emily's Storm. Sebastian had planned to wait before telling Emily. He wanted to give himself, and Claire, time to figure out how to even begin explaining this. But secrets have a way of slipping out at the worst possible moment. The breaking point. 3 days after the confrontation, Emily stormed into the kitchen, her phone clutched in her hand, her face streaked with tears. "Is it true?" she demanded, her voice shaking. Sebastian's stomach dropped. Claire, who had been washing dishes, turned slowly, her hands dripping soapy water. "Emily!" Claire started. "No! Just answer me!" Emily shoved her phone toward them. On the screen was a text from the same random number that had tipped him off. "Hey kid, heard some interesting stuff about who your real dad is. Asked your mom about Jake." Sebastian's blood ran cold. Who the hell sent that? Claire's face went pale. "Emily, let's sit down." "I don't want to sit down." Emily's voice cracked. She turned to Sebastian, her green eyes, Jake's eyes, wide with betrayal. "Dad, is it true?" That word, dad, hit him like a knife. Because he was her dad. He'd been there for every scraped knee, every school play, every nightmare. But now, biology might take that from him. Sebastian took a deep breath. There's something we need to talk about." Part 5: The Aftermath. They sat her down in the living room. Claire did most of the talking, her voice trembling as she admitted the affair, the lie, the secret she'd kept for 14 years. Emily listened in silence, her face unreadable. Then, when Claire finished, she stood up. "So you're not my dad?" she asked Sebastian, her voice small. Sebastian's throat tightened. "Biologically? No. Legally? Yes. In every other way that matters? Yes. I am your dad." Emily stared at him, then at Claire. Then, without another word, she turned and ran upstairs. Her bedroom door slammed shut. Part 6: The Fallout. That night, Sebastian sat outside her door, listening to her muffled sobs. He wanted to go in, to hold her, to promise her everything would be okay, but how could he? His own heart was in pieces. Instead, he slid a note under her door. "Emily, no matter what the test says, you'll always be my daughter. I love you. Always. Dad." The next morning, the note was gone. But Emily didn't come downstairs. Part 7: The Weight of Forgiveness. Sebastian sat in the dim glow of his home office, a half-empty bottle of bourbon on the desk. The house was silent. Emily had barely spoken to him or Claire in days, and Claire moved through the rooms like a ghost, waiting for the explosion that never came. He had every right to hate her. Every right to walk away. But then he'd hear Emily's quiet footsteps upstairs, the muffled sound of her music through the walls, and his chest would ache. The first crack. One evening, he found Emily sitting on the back porch, her knees pulled to her chest. He hesitated, then sat beside her. "You didn't know?" she asked, not looking at him. "No," he admitted. She swallowed hard. "Do you still want to be my dad?" The question gutted him. "Emily," he said, his voice rough, "you could be 30 years old and I'd still be showing up at your door with bad dad jokes and unsolicited advice. That doesn't change." A tear slipped down her cheek. "But Mom, what your mom did was wrong," he said firmly. "But you didn't do anything wrong. And I'm not going anywhere." She leaned into him, just slightly, and he wrapped an arm around her. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. The war inside. With Emily, he knew how to be steady. But with Claire? Every time he looked at her, he saw the lie. 14 years of memories now felt like a performance. Had she ever loved him, or was he just a safe choice? One night, after Emily was asleep, Claire stood in the doorway of his study. "I'll leave if you want me to," she said quietly. Sebastian swirled his bourbon, watching the amber liquid cling to the glass. "Why didn't you tell me?" Claire's hands trembled. "At first, I was scared. Then, I convinced myself it didn't matter. You were such a good father. I didn't want to take that away from you, or from her. You took away my choice," he said bitterly. She had no answer to that. The decision. Days turned into weeks. Sebastian threw himself into work, into parenting Emily, into anything that kept him from facing the chasm between him and Claire. Then, one morning, he found an envelope on his desk. Inside was a letter. Claire's handwriting. "Sebastian, I don't deserve your forgiveness. But if you're willing to try, I'll spend the rest of my life earning it. If you're not, I'll sign whatever papers you put in front of me. No fights, no demands. You and Emily come first. Claire." He read it 3 times. Then he walked into the kitchen, where Claire was washing dishes, her shoulders tense. "Couples counseling," he said. "And full transparency, no more secrets. Ever." Claire turned, her eyes wide with cautious hope. "You're willing to try?" "I'm willing to consider trying," he corrected. "But Claire, one more lie and I'm done." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "No more lies." The unfinished road. Forgiveness wasn't a switch to flip. It was a daily choice, some days easier than others. Would Sebastian ever trust Claire again? How would Emily navigate the truth as she grew older? And what would happen if Jake ever reappeared? But for now, they were still a family. A broken, healing family, but fighting to stay together. Final chapter, 4 years later. The autumn air was crisp as Sebastian stood outside the university dormitory, shifting his weight nervously. Emily, his Emily, no matter what a DNA test said, was moving into her freshman year, her green eyes bright with excitement. Claire adjusted the strap of Emily's overloaded duffel bag, fussing. "Did you pack extra blankets? It gets cold here in October." "Mom," Emily laughed, rolling her eyes. "I'll be fine." Sebastian watched them, a quiet ache in his chest. For years ago, he wasn't sure they'd ever get here. The aftermath of the lie? The first year was the hardest. Therapy had been brutal. Claire had to confront not just the affair, but the years of deception. Sebastian had to wrestle with his rage, his grief for the life he thought he'd had. Emily cycled through anger, confusion, and a stubborn loyalty to Sebastian. "You're my dad," she'd say fiercely, as if daring the world to disagree. Jake never reappeared. The anonymous text was traced to an old friend of Claire's who'd guessed the truth. No grand confrontation, just petty drama. The slow mend. Forgiveness didn't come in a single moment. It came in fragments. The night Sebastian came home to find Claire asleep at the kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork, Her idea to refinance the house so he could keep it if they divorced. Emily's high school dances where she insisted on having her date meet both of her parents. The first time, 2 years in, Sebastian realized he'd gone a whole day without thinking of Jake and Claire. The unspoken truth. They never went back to normal. Normal had been a lie. But they built something new, something honest. Claire stopped hiding little things, like bad days at work or worries about aging. Sebastian learned to say, "I'm still angry," instead of shutting down. Emily, now older, asked careful questions about Jake, not to find him, but to understand herself. The letting go. Now, as they hugged Emily goodbye outside her dorm, Sebastian felt Claire's hand slip into his. He squeezed it, not forgiveness, exactly, but something softer. "You okay?" Claire murmured. He watched Emily disappear into the crowd of students, his throat tight. "Yeah," he said. "We made it." And they had. Not perfect. Not unbroken. But together.